we talk about being in tune with the infinite. If you heard that song, the goodness of God is running after me, it means stopping long enough right where you are to feel that presence, that goodness, that peace, that light, that love. The greatest thing I think we learned from Jesus is, number one, he knew that he was one with God. And so were all of us. And he knew right where we are, that divine presence is. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. It's right where you are. And he taught that when you are in alignment with the divine presence, something happens. A spiritual power takes over and miracles happen, wonderful things, or under greater understanding. It doesn't mean an instant manifestation. I mean, he got it, he could do it, he could heal on the spot, but for us, it means we can have instant understanding of something more, of something greater than that. I'd like to share with you a quote that is in the very front of a man you may or may not know, Ralph Waldo. What would you? No. I knew you were going to say that. It's Ralph Waldo Trine. And he wrote the book In Tune with the Infinite in 1897 when he was 31 years old. This is one of the greatest selling New Thought books of all times. 2 million. He was, and this is on many different websites, a philosopher, a mystic, author of many books, and a mentor to many New Thought leaders, especially his contemporaries like Ernest Holmes. He was a mentor to Ernest Holmes, of course, founder of religious science. And his books, he was a great author, and he sold more books to the general public. People didn't realize this was anything but a way of life book, how to live in tune with the infinite. Great, great, long-lasting impressions. And he wrote this at the beginning of his book. In order to enjoy life, one must be a master of life. For to be a slave to its inconsistencies. Do you know what that means by any chance? We all do. To be a slave to its inconsistencies only means torment for us and for others. And in order to enjoy the senses, one must be a master of them. To be a master of our senses means we have to plug into something bigger than our human self. We have to have a larger view of life, to be in tune with that inner self. You and I, all of us, need a deep interior meaning to life if we don't get battered around by our senses that try to stop the flow of infinite good into us. You see, we have that connection to spirit at all times. There isn't a time when we are not spiritual beings, boom, having a human experience. But we regulate how much of that we understand. You know, since we are made in the image and likeness of God, we have the same qualities and characteristics of infinite spirit right here and right now. Yes, we're individualized, so we have individual gifts that we expand on and utilize in our life more than others. But just like a drop of water has the exact same characteristics, that little tiny drop, well, much smaller than that, but that little tiny drop has the same characteristics of the whole ocean. We don't change in quality, just in degree, in quantity. That little drop is much smaller, but it still has the wholeness in it. And that's what we've got to learn to understand if we're going to be a master of this very, very physical world. We have to learn how to master and understand everything starts in the unseen. We live, move, and have our being in this thing called God that, yes, it animates us, it creates us, it manifests in, through, and as us. And we have to learn how to use that. So I'm going to give us a little test. I mean, if you think we're like this container, okay? A container, let's say like a reservoir. And we get our supply, like water, a reservoir gets its water, from a bigger supply, except we get our water from our supply from infinite source. And just like that smaller reservoir, we need to be open to the flow, that divine flow. If a reservoir closes itself off, covers itself up, it's going to dry up. Same with us. We have to really check how open we are to the flow of goodness in our life. Can you tell when you're in tune and not in tune? Nobody's giving me any kind of idea if it's a yes or no. I certainly know. I certainly understand when I'm plugged in and when I'm not. I can watch myself behaving badly. It's not really any fun, but sometimes you just can't stop until you stand back, remember, and stop and be in the presence. So we regulate the flow of the divine goodness. This world works on, as Ernest Holmes says, God is love and God is law. And God is the love, the divine givingness gives us everything we need. That's the love of God. But then it works on immutable laws, which are the laws that are impersonal, automatic, and mechanical. The law of cause and effect, the law of correspondence, the law of reciprocity. It works on all of those. Every flower that grows, no matter what it looks like, follows these same immutable laws. We can't get away from that. We need to work with them. We need to work with the laws. Now, we can close off, again, this divine flow that's always running after us. Hey, I want you. I'm here for you. God plays no favorites. It doesn't matter. There is no large or small or good or bad in the mind of spirit. We're all there. It's there for all of us equally. We're the ones that shut it down and close it off. Now, in his book, In Tune with the Infinite, Ralph Waldo, good students, trying, yes. He talks about thought forces, that everything is received mentally first. And since it's the law of reciprocity, our thought forces also go out like little energy packets and sending out energy and information. And if it's the law of circulation, like attracts like. So we have to be really aware of what we're sending out to this one power of goodness that will give us whatever we want, what we create in our experience. So I'm going to give you a little test now. I want you to see some of the things that cut off this flow are fear and worry. Now, we're automatically programmed as humans to have a sense of fear if something is dangerous to us, right? And that's good. So we can monitor our behavior or make certain good choices. That's good. It's when we start living in a consistency of fear and worry about everything, repeating those stories. Do you ever have those loops that go on in your mind about things you're worried about? Continually worry, worry, worry. And we have to learn practices to stop that, because that doesn't do us or anyone else any good. It just, like attracts like, we'll find plenty of things to worry about, especially in the world the way it is right now. We talked so much about that last week, of being in harmony and out of the inconsistencies and the fearfulness of the world we live in, to be guided from that place of, do you know InSpirit is a word? And Kathy, you'd know that because you were on our board then when we chose the name InSpirit. InSpirit is a word that means being in spirit. And so you know when you're in spirit or not. And so we need to be able to test that. And if we're in fear and worry, what are we going to do? We have to have spiritual practices. So it's fear and worry. I'll tell you what I came up with this week that kind of surprised me. It was one of those things I'm not used to. I had this big pit in my stomach, and I realized I was having resentment from some old family issues, that just something had triggered it, and I went, whoa, I don't like this feeling. I'm not used to this particular, I have plenty of others. This one I wasn't used to. And so I said, I need to do something. Now, I know many of you journal regularly and love it, and that's your mode of spiritual work. You just love it. I don't love it, but I knew it's what I had to do. I wanted to do my journaling until I could change that consciousness. I could up-level it. And I thought, I'll probably be here for days because it hurt, you know? I said, oh my God, do I have enough time? But I'll tell you what, because it was a conscious choice that I sat down and started writing about resentment and why I felt resentful and what was going on. And pretty soon I started going, oh gosh, guess what I get to look forward to today? And oh my gosh, look at, and I could feel the shift inside of me. And when I got up, there was no more resentment left, because if we get used to doing spiritual practice and asking, what do I need to do right now? What is the practice that's going to move me out of this blockage into the flow? Because is anybody here that would rather live in the flow? I mean, don't we all? It's a good thing. So we have to find out, what is it I can do to be in the flow of goodness? I'll tell you, Ernest Holmes says the worst kind of blockage is selfishness. And we all have it in us. There's a selfishness, and it's more of a teenage behavior, you know, what's in it for me? You know, and I don't care if I hurt you or not, what's in it for me? I mean, that's a very teenage behavior, and it's okay, it's part of our growing process. It's not something that we just go, oh, that's terrible. But as we expand in consciousness, we want to say, not what's in it for me at the expense of the whole. I can think what's in it for me and what's good for the whole. So we're part of the unfolding of good. It's not that we don't get what we want, but we have to see how we are in relationship to everything else. Does that make sense? How we can look at a bigger picture in the process of what we're doing. I want to share another quote from, this is from Ralph Waldo Trine. He said, there is nothing that will more quickly and completely bring us in harmony with life than the vital realization of our oneness with God. And when I talked about the closing the flow and opening the flow, really it all comes from our point of view. It's not what we're looking at, it's what we're looking from. And when it's this oneness, he also says heaven is oneness, hell is separation, when we feel separate. So I think when we're self-aware, we can start looking, well, am I looking at this situation from the point of view of being separate? Am I being a pessimist and looking only for what's bad and wrong and what's not good? Or am I looking at it from the eyes of the affirmative side of life, the optimist, saying, okay, this may be difficult, but I know there's something more. You know, talking about behavior again, we can monitor ourselves by, how do I feel like when I show up somewhere? Do I feel good about that? Do I feel good about how I responded to something? And you know, we don't always feel good because there's a human part of us that does get a little snarky sometimes. And what I do is I say, okay, is there something I need to do to make this better? Something I can do right now to make this better? Or do I need to see something that I'm not seeing right now, a bigger picture, something more? And that's what we need to do. And oftentimes, and this is another spiritual practice, which Jesus did all the time, it's prayer and meditation. And I want to read you Ernest Holmes' definition of meditation because it may be different than you expected. He said, meditation is a contemplation or continuous thought. It's just being in tune. And he said it is the recognition of the God within, a certainty of our oneness with the whole. So can you just close your eyes for just a moment? You know how I always like you to put your feet on the floor and unwrap yourself so you're fully an open channel for good. So it's a continuous thought of our oneness with God. So when we do a prayer, a religious science, a science of mind prayer, we always start with God is all there is nothing else. It's energy of love, peace, harmony, oneness, goodness, possibility, whatever it is, just be in that place, that's all there is. No matter what the experiences in life are all about, this spirit, this oneness is always there. So it's just closing your eyes and just focusing on one. There is one life, that is God's life. That life is perfect, that life is my life now. Just focusing on that energy. And it's that knowing that there is an immediate availability of power and wisdom that relates to this oneness, that source, that open channel for good. Now it's listening to that still small voice or making the space for making a space for it to be heard. And you know it's the power of Spirit, because Spirit will never tell us to do anything harmful to ourselves or anyone else. Spirit will never tell us to do anything that is out of truth and goodness. It's always something. It doesn't mean it's easy what we'll hear, but it means it's in alignment with what's right and good and true. And he goes on to say, such connection with God brings harmony into our lives and our affairs and establishes the law of health and prosperity and makes us a light for all who cross our pathway. For all who cross our pathway. So I want you right now, just in this place of catching up with the goodness of God, I just invite you to, right now, anyone you know, you first, if that's where you are, need something in your life, put that into this infinite source of goodness right now. And then add anyone else that needs health, abundance, success, harmonious relationships. Just put that into the mind of God, the mind that only knows to say yes, as we open to that infinite goodness right here and right now. Now, the important part of this, as you place that in there, you need to know it will be done. You have to have faith, because faith is truly the secret of life. Faith in knowing there is something more, that God is good and working for you all the time, all the time. So let's just let that go, and just let it go. Say, thank you, God, and so it is. And just you don't need to hang on to that anymore, because it's in the hands of goodness, the hands of love, the hands of God, right here and right now. And today, if after all this talk of goodness and light and love and possibility, you go out and say, I don't see good in that person at all, I'm going to ask you to do something. Look deeper. Look deeper. Because everyone is that drop of water, maybe expressing differently, maybe in an unacceptable way to us, or there's good in everyone and everything. And if we're going to truly be in tune with the infinite, it's going to be coming from that place, as Reverend Janet said, the place of love. Tell me how much you love. And I don't mean love, just sending those little heart emojis that I do continually, because that's a good thing, but really from the place of love in your heart and mind, that you can say, I truly love. So tell me how much you love, and I'll tell you how much you live with God. Because if you're living in that space, whatever you call it, spirit, infinite goodness, eternal essence, unlimited potential, whatever you call that, it's going to take us on to the affirmative side of life. It's for us, right here and right now, to make the step, to make the change, to accept all of us. We're perfect right now in all of our imperfections and our perfections. We've got to accept it all. There's not a spot where God and good and love isn't. It's everywhere. It needs to be revealed, it needs to be claimed, it needs to be invited in, it needs to be open to, it needs to be accepted, wherever you are, wherever you are. So just say, in this moment, I am in tune with the infinite.
I am in tune with the infinite.
I accept the goodness of life.
I accept the goodness of life.
I know I am loved, loving, and lovable, right here, right now, and always. I love you. That's me. I'm saying this. I love you all completely, because I know for all of us, we're on this path to make the world a better place, and I feel so honored to be here with all of you, because I know we're in this together. This is, as the opening song, one big family. Our arms are open. Our life is good. And I keep that love in my heart, and we close this by saying, and so it is. Thank you all. I love you much. Thank you.